Welcome to the Games Gymnastics Podcast. Thank you for coming on.
Thank you.
So today we've got someone I've trained with before, for years. I've known for years. I've competed with on a couple of occasions, and most recently has been to World Challenge Cups, or World Cup actually, and yeah, he's done some crazy stuff for being the same age as me. So today we've got Alex Cash. I'll let you do the rest of your introductions.
Thank you, Winston. So my name's Alexander Yolshin Cash. I'm 18 years old and I train at Utoxia Gymnastics Academy. And most recently, I became the London Open all-round champion and helped my club win the Adams Shield.
You mentioned that you went to London Open this year.
Yeah.
Can you go through your gymnastics career, like from the start to where you are now? How did you get to where you are now?
Yeah. Okay, so I started gymnastics around, I'd say about 4 or 5 at Utoxia Gymnastics Club. And that wasn't at a very high level. I was just a club gymnast, a very small group of boys, not a great gym, not a lot of equipment. And my gymnastics journey was rather slow. I did stay in the club stages until around level 3 in the national NDPs. And I'd say it wasn't until around level 4, 5, 6 where I started to do elite grades. I started to see there might be a future in this sport for me. And that's when I came second in level 6. And that's when I was invited to my first ever Lilleshall training camp to be a part of the GB national squad. And ever since then, it's kind of just snowballed, and I've been given more and more opportunities as I've proven myself to be a stronger gymnast. I'd say the first main challenge for me, or main opportunity, would be the Cottbus friendly competition in Germany. That was in 2022. And that was my first experience of representing Great Britain. And just not competing on home soil, which is very scary for the first time. And I actually had a very good competition at that competition, yeah.
That was your first international. What would you say your highlights have been since then?
That competition was rather important for me because that was one half of the qualification for the Junior World Championships in Turkey the next year in 2023. So a good result of that competition really helped me solidify my place in that Junior Worlds team. So the next competition then for me would be the 2023 English Championships, which was the final qualification. And that was a rather amazing comp for me. I think it was almost like my breakthrough competition, hit some really high personal bests on pieces like pommel and parallel bars, typically my stronger pieces. And that competition is what allowed me to make the Junior Worlds team alongside you and George Atkins. So yeah, I'd say that was my first big break in the sport of gymnastics. Yeah.
I mean, I would say the same for me. Like that English champs was it was an amazing competition.
Yeah.
Because we weren't going around together. You were like a piece behind me or something. Yeah, we weren't far from each other.
I remember I'd just come off a perfect P-bar routine, and I went to high bar, and I've been having some problems with it. I've been changing my routine construction around. It was quite silly, to be honest, to be doing that the week before the comp, but it just wasn't in the right place. And I remember I had a bit of a nightmare there and thought for a second maybe I wouldn't, I'd be pushed down too far. But I had a good floor rotation, good pommel rotation. I remember finishing on pommels. I was very nervous going into that last routine. But I was able to keep my cool and I got the job done. Second place. It's a good job.
Yeah, it was good. It was really good. Yeah, I had an amazing comp like that time. That was, 78-8 with a full.
I remember that. Yeah.
On my Muckers. Oh, you were watching it. I remember in the background of that video because when I did it the first time, you were watching that time, and then I got back up, did the next Muckers. I think you went up before me. I remember because you sort of recoiled when I caught the bar. You were like, when I did the Muckers.
Yeah.
I just remember seeing that in the back of the video. Yeah, it can be a bit of a scary skill, to be fair. But
especially at that point. I've never done it before.
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
True.
I've never done the cuts before. And you were one of the only boys in the squad who was consistently doing it in competition. So definitely freaked me out a bit watching some of those. But very consistent. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. You've also seen me miss it as well, though. You'd also seen me miss it 100% at that point. Because at that point, it wasn't like 100% consistent. Hence why I fell on it. Like, it was the DM part, but I had missed a couple of those wickets before. So yeah, I mean, fair enough. So yeah, that was sort of the thing that propelled you to Junior Worlds. So what happened just basically talk us through everything that happened in between English and Junior Worlds, if you can remember.
So this was actually quite crazy for me. So I began training like normal. I felt weird preparing for my first major championships. I think I couldn't quite believe it. And I think maybe some of the people around me in the gym were quite surprised that I made that team as well. But I'd been going through some lower back pain at the time, especially like my very lower back. I was struggling on the floor on the vault. So with these major championships build-ups, it's a lot more numbers, a lot more impact, longer training days, more routine. So I was physically struggling. And I remember one day coming into the gym, I believe this was 2 weeks before we were meant to fly out. I did a double twist punch straight front on the floor. And I landed short out of the double twist. And I remember just instantly feeling sharp pain in my lower back. And I remember just not being able to walk straight away after that. I was just sat down with ice. I remember Sergey, my coach at the time, was quite nervous. He was quite angry at me, though, for making that mistake because it was quite costly. I was in a lot of pain. And, at that point, I didn't really believe I was going to be able to compete still at that competition. But I don't know how I pulled it off. But 2 weeks later, I was back doing all round in one piece, still in pain, admittedly, but back in one piece and ready to travel. But I can't really remember much of it, to be honest, because I was just thinking about the competition.
One of the very few things I remember about the sort of period of time in between the English and Junior Worlds, the one thing I remember like clearly is getting the news of going to Junior Worlds, and that was incredible. Because I remember I got a call from Luke, who was at a World Cup at the time with Josh Nathan. He gave me a call and just to say that I'd been selected for the Junior Worlds team. And I mean, I was just in the middle of training and I was just taken aback. And then I just had to get back up on the P-bars and just start working again.
Yeah, I actually remember how it was like for me. I was on track with all the boys like Luke Marsh, Liam Jory, Hamish Carter. And then Josh and Sergey called, I think he called all of us over actually. He called all of us over and then he told me then that I'd made the team. That was very exciting. And then just, again, straight back to training as if nothing happened. But yeah, I definitely had a smile on my face. For the rest of the session, I was smiling a lot. So yeah, that was a good day.
Yeah, definitely. It was a very good day. Yeah. Surreal feeling to be like recognized like that. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Let's skip ahead to Junior Worlds. What happened? How did it go?
I almost felt coming into the Junior Worlds that I was slightly underprepared. This was only my second international competition for Great Britain, so I felt almost as if maybe I didn't have a lot of the experience, but seeing as we were the older boys in the team, as George was a lot younger, I felt like I had a responsibility to kind of just keep my character and just like show a strong performance so the team would have a chance at a medal. Unfortunately, that's not what happened for my qualification. We started on the vault and straight away I remember I did my double twist kazamatsu and just put my hand straight down, first apparatus. And then going into P-bars, I felt a lot of pressure all of a sudden from that fall. And I remember having a talk with Anthony Wise before that parallel bars routine. And he was basically trying to keep my cool and telling me how important this P-bar routine is. And I ended up falling once again on P-bars in that competition. So yeah, first two pieces, 2 falls is not what you want for a debut World Championship. So that was definitely quite frustrating. Went to high bar. Actually, going back to P-bar, I remember you here, perfect P-bar routine there to get you into the final. That was nice to see. I think George did an all right routine, but not his best. But that was important because we needed that team score because I've flopped my routine. Anyway, we moved to the high bar, and at this point, I feel like I kind of calmed down a lot. I had like no nerves pretty much because I'd already messed up 2 apparatus, so I thought, well, it can't really get much worse. And I remember talking to Luke Folwell before that routine, and he was really nice and told me, like, I belong here. I can do this routine, and I actually did one of my best like high bar routines in that whole prep. And that was a very proud moment. And that gave me the momentum that I needed to finish the rest of the 3 apparatus. So then I believe we hit all 3 high bar routines, right?
All
yeah, 3 qualification.
Yeah, all 3 of us went through. It was like,
that was a good solid rotation for it.
Yeah, it was like 13-1, 3-3 I got, and then George got like 12-8. You got 12-7 or so. Something like that.
Yeah.
It's 3 solid scores, especially for junior.
And then we went to floor. Now, my floor routine wasn't anything special, but I was able to get a good score, helped my all-round, and I believe that was one of the team scores as well, so I contributed to the team on floor as well, which was good. We then moved to the pommel horse, and that's when the problems started to happen for us right at the end. I thought we'd be able to hold on. Obviously, George Atkins had a bit of a nightmare routine, and then you went up and hit your clean routine. So I was in a position there where I really had to hit this routine for Great Britain because we couldn't really count George's score because it was just like such a low score. So I remember I was extremely nervous for the routine, and I ended up like missing one of my skills, my E Stockley on the one handle. I ended up just stepping down to the leather, so I didn't get any credit for the E Stockley, but it was still really clean. So I got 2 Bs credited instead of an E. And then normally in my routine I would have gone Shivado and then Roth, but I was facing inwards in the leather. So I made the snap decision to just do a Magyar Shivado, which I hadn't done in, I don't know, months. And I was able to do a nice dismount, finish the routine cleanly, and that got me into the World Pommel Horse Final, which I was stoked about. Pretty close call, I can't lie. A lot of great pommel workers in our generation, so that was definitely tough, but a great achievement. I was very proud of that. And 2 good scores counted for Great Britain. We moved to the rings, and rings is quite a safe piece for us. We all had similar routines, so we all hit that routine, similar routine, and that was the end of qualifications done. I think I was generally happy with my performance. A bit disappointed because I had greater hopes on other pieces like parallel bars, but that meant that I had qualified for the all-around final alongside you 2 days later. So I was also stoked about that. Although it was a very nervous wait watching the other subdivisions like Japan, China going up because it could so easily just kick you out of a final. But yeah, that was an interesting day one, I'd say. Yeah,
we were first subdivision, so we had to wait for the entire day because there was like 6 subdivisions. So we had to wait for the entire day to see if we were in any finals. Like for me on P bars and high bar for, and kind of all around as well. But I had a pretty good idea that I'd be in the all around final. And then you with pommel, you with all around. Yeah. Considering you had. You messed up your pommel routine. Like, it may not have been a big mistake and you may not have lost loads for it, but it was still a mistake on your pommel routine. You still made the final. So, like, considering you've done very well there. So that was on the Wednesday that we did the qualifications. We came 7th as a team. It was, George landed his vault, but it was a straight cas, so we were like, we'll call it 8/10 down for that because didn't all go through vault. Then George kind of messed up his P bars as well, and he would have been up about like 8/10, I think he said, on that. So that was a pretty significant difference there. He also fell on floor as well, so he would have been a bit. We would have been a few tenths up from that. And then he definitely would have been ahead of me on pommel if he went through. Like, I scored just above 13, which was surprisingly close to a final, weirdly enough. Considering I never considered myself to be a pommel worker. But yeah, like we had a few mistakes. So considering, I think we did quite well, and we held ourselves together as a team. We had a good last piece on rings, so I think we did quite well. So what happened after that?
So after that, we had a rest day or like training day in between. I remember I hardly did anything that day. My body was sore because this was the first time that I'd done the full podium training as well on the Monday, and you're expected to show routines there. So this was like a heavy week in terms of like routines, then like a bit of rest and routines straight away again for all these different qualifications and finals. So that was my first taste of that, and that was quite tough. So yeah, I remember I mainly just focused on the parallel bars and the P-bar that day, just try and preserve my body for the all-around final on the Friday. So yeah, the all-around final, I believe we didn't start on the same apparatus. I started on the vault because I was in the lower group qualifying. I was just squeezed into the final, and I believe you started on the pommel horse. So it was definitely an upper hand for me, I believe, to start on the vault again, because that's what I'd done my whole preparation, started on vault. And I landed my vault straight away, my hopes were high, and I was a lot more confident. And I was going around with Andre at this point, and that was unlike day one where I was going around with Luke Falwell and Anthony Wise. So I think maybe I was a bit more comfortable with Andre. He'd come down to Knott's Gymnastics Academy quite a lot throughout the prep, helping me out. So I felt at home, I felt comfortable, and I think that's what really allowed me to just relax and do my best gymnastics. My parallel bars routine, I hit my parallel bars routine. It was very clean, not my best, but definitely clean enough and good for my all-round score as well. Again, another clean high bar routine, floor routine, hit clean again. Pommel, I did my full difficulty, which I intended to do at the qualifications. And I think that was important for me to get that confidence back before the pommel final the next day on the Saturday morning. So I was able to do that, which was great. And I finished with like a mediocre rings routine, not my best, but that meant I was able to score around 78 points, and that's a 10th all-around finish in the world, which is something I'm very proud of. Definitely didn't expect that going into it, but yeah, very proud of that.
Yeah, as you should be. Yeah, it was a really good competition for you. I remember like looking over every now and again. I'm like, yeah, he's smashing this. Yeah.
I remember I was on vault and I looked over at you and you were starting on pommel. I was next up to go on vault, and I remember just shouting from the other side of the arena, and I was watching you do your pommel routine, and you hit it clean. I remember what you scored, like 13 again, like literally same performance as qualification. And that was nice to see. And then I think again, I saw your parallel bars. Did you make a small mistake on parallel bars?
Yeah, so what happened on parallel bars, I slipped off on my undersummy, so that wasn't great. Then on the one I did afterwards, It wasn't too bad, but then I did the Mokuts. They credited it, thank God, but I was in the handstand, but I was way over to one side. So I had to like really fight for it. So it just wasn't a great routine. I think I scored like 11, so I would have lost like 2 marks at least because of like all the mistakes I had in the routine. I just wasn't composed. But yeah, I think you probably would have seen from the second undersummy that I did, is my guess.
Yeah.
Oh no, I didn't slip. Yeah. I stuck my finger on the bar. That's what I did.
Because you had an amazing day one. I remember you were top 6 qualifying, were you?
I was 7th qualified.
You were pretty close to the top scorers. Like anything can happen in an all-round final. So I think from that standpoint, you were probably more of a favourite to like reach those top spaces than me, which is really exciting for us both to be in that position. I'd say one of the things I remember clearly from the competition is I just finished my rings dismount, and I was standing with Andre watching the high bar as Group 1 was finishing. And I remember it was Angel Barajas, last man up on high bar, and he needed like a absurd score, but he was capable of doing it. And I remember looking at Andre, and Andre was just like, to be or not to be. And I just remember watching that routine with Andre, and he stuck that dismount. believe he came second on the tiebreaker, or just like a couple tenths behind, or like hundredths of a tenth. But that was brilliant to watch in person.
But yeah, he scored 14 on that high bar routine. It was ridiculous. It was absolutely ridiculous. But like, it was a perfect routine. I remember before my floor routine, I was last up on floor because I was the top of group 2 in qualification. So I was just watching the Japanese guy on high bar before my floor routine. I was like, I'm out of this competition. I don't really care. And then Luke was like, just focus. I was like, I'm just watching high bar routine. It's nothing crazy. But it was really nice. It was really clean. And like his routine, everyone in the stadium watched it because he was the last person up in the entire competition. And it was just a phenomenal routine. And everyone was like willing him to win because we knew it was like a perfect routine. But then, it wasn't to be, I guess.
Yeah. There was a lot of surprises that day, actually. Yeah, certain people, or like at least from like Japan, China, you thought would be smashing it, like just missing out on medals. So yeah, it was definitely a great thing to be a part of. Great character building as well. Amazing experience.
Yeah. One thing I was a bit annoyed about was because the scores were a bit lower in the final, because everyone like had mistakes, like and how fell on pommel, like some of the Japanese guys fell. Was that if I had scored the score I got in qualification, I would have medaled, which was insane to me. Like, I would have gone a bronze if I did the same thing. But again, it's a different competition. It's a different day, different circumstances. You can't compare yourself to your past self, I guess.
Yeah, I think it's good when you get put in that situation, because it doesn't come around a lot. So you got to take the opportunity when you get it. But it makes you think, like, we're not that far behind. Or like back then I thought, damn, I'm like so far behind like Japan and China, but I wasn't even that far behind. So it's quite exciting, really. When you see like, which maybe just years of underestimating myself, just clear evidence that I'm better than I thought I was. So that was really, really exciting. But yeah,
absolutely.
So the pommel final on the Saturday, that was probably the most exciting final I've ever been a part of, I'd say. I remember I had Andre and Anthony Wise on the floor with me. And I think George was down there as well, just like my warm-up, helping me out. It felt like I had a whole like big group, big family with me, which is very nice. And I decided to put in a new skill that I'd never competed before in. So I was trying the triple Russian in between the two handles, E value. Never competed it before, but it was kind of something I had in my back pocket just for the final. And I felt confident at that point that I could put that in my routine. And I ended up performing what was a really clean routine, hitting all my difficulty, apart from one skill, which I believe I downgraded my full Shavado for a B Shavado, which I believe in the haste of things, I realized I was on for a clean routine and just decided to take a shortcut. And that means I lost 2/10, which really pushed me away from the 14s, which is what I needed to get a medal at that final. So a clean routine, and I came fourth, I think a few tenths away from the bronze medal. And for me, that was like a breakthrough result. Pommel being my like speciality piece, you could say, or like the thing that I'm most talented for or gifted for. That was something really promising. And going into the future, I think that definitely helped me be given more opportunities and experiences. So that was my first big break, I think, and that was really exciting for me.
It was awesome to watch, honestly. Like, seeing you, it was the fact that you did 3 different routines in the competition. Like, you did 3 different pommel routines throughout Junior Worlds, and each of them were clean, but somehow you've done 3 separate routines, done all of them clean, scored very, very consistently, even when doing them. Like, I just thought that was so impressive.
I definitely wouldn't have thought going into it that I would do 3 clean routines, but all 3 routines would be completely different. Yeah, that was actually a good year for me in terms of like my pommel consistency. I think that's what helped me get selected for that competition as well, is I was just hitting all of my pommel routines in the build-up as well. So yeah, definitely some progress there to be seen.
Last year of junior, like, it is quite good to like get that consistency, but then as soon as you go into senior, you start chucking the bigger skills, you're gonna lose some of it. Like, I lost basically all of my consistency, and I got injured, but I guess stuff happens. On some pieces, I'm not doing anything different, so those pieces are pretty consistent. So like rings, for example, that's like same routine I've done for basically my whole life, so it's really consistent. But then stuff where I'm trying to put in new skills and stuff like that, yeah, it's been a bit up and down. Like floor, I've been putting in like bigger tumbles, like double, full twist punch, double front, all that sort of stuff. Higher bar, trying to chuck bigger releases. And then, so basically since I've been trying to do bigger releases, because basically all of my routines at that competition were pretty simple, like all things considered. Like they weren't that difficult for me. I knew I could do them really quite easily, not doing too much to make it inconsistent, because I know on pommels I was going to put in my sewn to one flop, but that would have only gotten me a 10th. So in the end, we were just like, is there any point? If it's like probably going to make me fall off. Probably not. After Saturday, you were done. And was it just like a nice, chilled, basically a holiday after that?
After the final on Saturday, I remember we got the bus and straight back to the hotel. And the five of us, us three and the two, Anthony and Luke, we were playing ping pong. And I remember I was happy with my performance, but I was almost like a bit gutted that I was just so close to getting a medal, which wasn't meant to be. So I almost felt like I was a bit lost at that point. But then thinking about the flights in 2 days and I've got nothing to do until then, I just made the most of it. I think I was watching you compete in the parallel bars and the high bar final, and then also the vault final was great to watch. So yeah, it was just almost like I could just switch off and just enjoy being there, which I think for the whole time before that I was kind of just in my own head thinking about my gymnastics and what's expected of me and stuff like that, all the thoughts you get before a competition. So that was just amazing. And the banquet as well was something I'd never really been a part of, or at least for like a competition or event. So that was great, really. A great way to end an incredible experience. So yeah.
I remember, going into each of the days of performance I had, like they were all very different. Like first day, so the Wednesday when we competed in qualifications, because I was supposedly the team captain, because I was the only one who said that I would. And I sort of felt like, because I did have the most international experience, I did sort of want to try and keep the team together in that sort of sense. I knew I had the most consistent routines anyway. So I did just try and like keep you together. And I think that helped my performance. And I think that did actually help me get through the competition. But then on Friday, it was just me, and I just sort of had to do it by myself. I was almost trying to prove myself in something that, like, because before that I was just sort of enjoying my time there. I was just sort of having fun. I was happy to be there, and I had like no real expectations on that all around final day. I really wanted to get like the same score I got the 2 days before, and it just wasn't gonna happen. But then on the Sunday, I went into it, I was like, I'm just happy to be in these finals. Like, I barely scraped by into the P-Bars one, so I just need to put out my best performance as good as I can get it, and then whatever happens, happens. And I was a 10th off a medal, even though I was 6th. Like, and it was like probably the best P-Bars routine I had ever done up to that point in my life. Yeah. And it was just because I just had fun with it, and it was just enjoying the experience, really.
Yeah, that P-Bar routine was amazing. I remember watching that with George, and it was like, it felt like it went by so quickly, but then you just stuck that dismount, and I remember everyone was just going crazy. I think in the video George took of it, you can just see like Luke and Anthony just like throwing their hands in the air, just like shouting, screaming, jumping up and down. So yeah, that was amazing to watch, and that was a crazy final. I think everyone hit their routines apart from that one Chinese who did the perfect routine and then fell on the dismount.
In the video on the FIG website of the Junior Worlds final, like the second day of it, on the video of my P-bar routine, you can't see it in the video of the actual routine, but when they do the replay and you see me stick the double back, you can see Luke literally do like a massive tuck jump at like the same height as him off the ground.
Yeah.
He was gassed.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and yeah, it was an amazing feeling. Like, I didn't get a medal. I didn't like even though I was so close, but I'm just happy to have done it. Really, it was an amazing experience. And if I was so close that time, then what's stopping me from going again with a senior routine?
Exactly.
So, what's happened since then?
Okay, so I'll talk a bit about like immediately after and just like the rest of 2023, what was happening. So around the same time as Junior Worlds, I was doing my A-levels. So that was really the thing that needed to be completed. So I was completing that, and at the same time as that, I was just resting my lower back. So I wasn't doing much intense training at all. But I was still training pommels, and this is because I was invited to compete at the Senior Worlds trial in Lilleshall in August. And I was invited to just compete one piece, and that was the pommel horse. And I think that was off the back of Junior Worlds. They wanted to see me attempt a senior routine. So I began preparation for that. And although I couldn't do certain skills, I remember I was trying to do a sheer handstand in my routine. But I remember being told by physios that I shouldn't really be doing that. And I shouldn't really even be doing a dismount. So I remember not doing that in my routine. But this was a big challenge for me. I put all my difficulty in. So I did the G flop on one handle for the first time. F Stockley flop for the first time, Woo for the first time. So there was lots of new skills in this routine. And because I was only training pommel, it felt like I could actually like manage this load of a routine. It was a very big jump going from 8 to 10 skills for the first time. But I was really impressed with the effort that I gave. And I think that's actually helped me this year, at least, with managing some of that fitness. So I was competing alongside my teammate Sam Mustafi and Hamish Carter. And I remember I had to wait 5 rotations to complete my pommel horse routine. And I was in the same group as Max finishing pommel. So that was almost like something I'd dreamt of as a kid, like competing with Max or like competing with Lewis. So I remember I was first up and I did a great routine, a bit scruffy because I was quite nervous. But I remember I got to the end, I did Roth and then Woo triple Russian, and on the triple Russian at the end before the dismount I was just run out of juice and I fell off. Well, I didn't think I'd make the team anyway. It was impossible for me to make the team, so there was no hard feelings there. I was just happy to be there. And then I remember Max delivered a great pommel routine and he made the team, and I remember speaking to him afterwards and he was giving me some tips on like fitness and certain skills throughout the routine, so that was like a really nice experience. After that I began training more or less of my new skills on other apparatus, getting ready for this year in like the English and the British, where I needed to have 10 skills in my routine, more or less. So that was really my focus going into 2024. Just get the new skills, get them in, like Kovac and high bar, and just see what would come of that.
So that was the end of 2023. So what about
like this year now?
Start of 2024 going into now? Yeah.
Beginning of 2024, obviously Olympic year. Off the back of my success from the previous year, I found myself being invited to a lot more senior national training camps. That was almost surprising to be in the like these small training camps with athletes like Jake Jarman, who at the time like I was crazy for me to like compare myself to them, but I was around them and training with them, and that definitely helped my confidence and made me believe that I'm like meant to be there. So the prep for the English and the British was a bit disjointed for me, because I was planning on doing the all around, and then just before around 3 weeks before the English Championships, I was offered to compete at the Cairo World Cup as a replacement for Joshua Nathan, who had recently injured his knee at a training camp. So that kind of hindered my all around preparations for those comps. But being a first year senior, I was just like, I'll just take this opportunity, even though I wasn't quite ready or had never competed the routine before. And that was a great experience to be able to compete with alongside like your teammates, Joe Fraser, likes of Courtney Tulloch, Adam Tobin, and that was like a great introduction to the world of senior gymnastics. I didn't have the best competition, but it was mainly just for experience, so I was very happy to be a part of all of that. So yeah, we then moved on to the English and British Championships, where I didn't really give the best performance, but I feel like that was understandable given the volume of new skills that I was attempting. So I remember I was trying to put the McCutts in on my P-bar routine, and I did the Kovac on high bar for the first time, and yeah, some new stuff on pommel that I've been putting in my routine, like sheer handstand and like sun flop. So not any promising results, but I was getting better from each competition. I was getting better, a little bit better each time, better at handling the pressure, better at just putting my hand up and performing. So I was definitely getting better at that point in time. So then there was kind of a period of no competitions, and I was just training new skills, seeing what I could put in my routines for the upcoming London Open and British Teams competition. 2 weeks before the London Open, I was offered the Slovenia World Cup alongside Ramel from GMAC, and this was interesting because this would mean I'd have 3 consecutive competitions, 3 weeks back to back, and that's something I was really always wanted to do from a young age, is just to compete more, because it's a shame in gymnastics you do all this training, but there's not a whole lot of opportunity to actually compete. So that was very exciting for me. For the London Open, I was back on all round again, and 2 days before the competition, we'd just been at a training camp, and I'd gotten food poisoning after eating some, I remember it was salmon, and it was like, I don't know, it shouldn't have been on the shelf, but I ate that, and I remember I was just very sick, up all night, just couldn't stop the sickness. And I remember at the podium training, I just felt terrible. I remember the paramedics gave me some like fluid replacement. I couldn't really do anything pretty much. I was like just obsolete. But I was actually very calm because I knew that physically I was ready. So as long as I felt okay on the day, I knew I'd be able to perform. And I woke up that morning having a rested night's sleep, and I was able to go 6 for 6 routines and win the all-round competition. And that was almost surprising for me. I had no expectation of that. So that was definitely like a surprise, almost like a nice surprise. But that was a great test run for my individual apparatus, like pommel horse, high bar, parallel bars, for the World Cup the next week. Now, this was my 4th international for GB, and again, I had some unfortunate mistakes, which kind of held me back from making the finals. I did place 9th on the parallel bars with a pretty decent routine, so that was almost like a great achievement, but also like a slap in the face, because I got the same score as 8th place, and I lost a tiebreak, so I was the first reserve for that final. But nevertheless, it was great to be there at another GB International, and to watch Ramel Robinson-Bailey win that bronze medal in the vault. That was great to watch as well. So another great experience. I'm sure lessons I've take away and learn from for next year. So that was good. The final competition then for 2024, in the UK at least, was the senior British teams, or like the Adam Shields competition, and we hadn't won that since 2017, when Matt Boardman, Pavel Kornienko, and Ray Baptiste, the 3-man team, won that. So this year was like our best chance with the best team best chance of winning that. It feels weird talking to you about this, because you guys were the reigning team champions for like
we had won it. Yeah, we had won it 2021, 2022, 2023, and so it was 3 years we had gotten that one before. It might have been actually 4 because I think we might have won 2019. Not sure.
So that almost felt like you guys were the titans of the UK, and you couldn't, like, nobody could stop you. But there was like almost like a glimmer of hope that maybe this year we'd have what it takes. Obviously, your team wasn't quite fully there. You had the likes of Joe Fraser not competing, Josh Nathan only on apparatus. So it definitely put the odds in our favour more so. And I remember that was what a competition that was. There's a lot of excitement from both our teams. And the thing I remember from it at the end was I was the last person to compete in the whole competition. And I was about to present my P-bar routine. I was the last man up. And I think I needed like 13.2 or something like that. I think I checked afterwards. And I was about to present, and then Josh Nathan had just hit his pommel routine, and he scored 15. So I didn't actually know that at the time, but I could just hear all you guys like shouting and screaming and stuff. Celebration of Josh's routine. So but I was able to step up, and I did one of the best routines I've done the whole year on parallel bars, and that was enough for us to win. So a great competition. That was actually my first British teams ever. So I definitely think I'd favour the team competitions over the individual ones just because of how electric they are. Like so much energy, and I think competing with like your teammates is just the best thing. So yeah, another great experience and a great way to finish the 2024 UK competition season.
In our defence, we didn't realise that anyone actually had to go up after Josh. We were just shouting. So, yeah.
Was Josh not the last person?
Josh was the last person in our rotation, like on pommel, but we didn't realise he was not the last person of the competition. We thought he was like the last one. This is why we were going crazy. And then you were on P-bars. I was like, shit.
No, but you're entitled to do that. Like you can you're allowed to make as much noise as possible, and I've just got to deal with that. So
I mean, if he scores 15, I think we're well within our rights.
Exactly. Yeah. No, nothing against you. You got to play to your strengths and use what you can. So.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean,
but yeah, what
it wasn't
what a day that was.
That was put you off. It wasn't intentionally trying to put you off or anything. So.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, you still smashed it. What did you actually score on that P-bars? Was it like?
It was like 40.2, but the scores were inflated a little bit. You know, British teams scored always inflated.
Yeah, true. So. They are a bit high in British teams. But yeah, like we had two fully fit people in our team. We had Joe, Cameron Jones, and Ramel. And then I had my shoulder, my ankle, and then also my finger. Gabe had what we now know is a stress fracture in his back.
Oh,
and who else? Josh obviously had his knee, so he could only do pommel. So our team was like held together with duct tape at that point. Like it was a struggle to get through the competition even. But yeah, we did the most we could, and that was an amazing finish from Josh. And we all went crazy. That's been the end of 2 different British teams now. Josh Nathan finishing pommels and scoring, I think he scored like 14.7, 14.8 last year, and then he scored 15 this year. It was insane because he's been last up, last piece both times now.
Yeah.
Every single time he's like put us up a medal slot. Every single time.
Yeah.
Like he put us up above Leeds this time, and he put us up above. Who was it last time? Who was second last time? I can't even remember. Leeds. It was Leeds again.
I didn't actually know this, but my coach Josh Champion had told me afterwards. Leeds were actually winning going into the last rotation.
Yeah. It was Leeds, us, Notts.
Yeah.
So the first and third just swapped.
Yeah, I remember they just had a great P-bar rotation, and then they had to finish on high bar, and that was unfortunate for them because they, P-bars, their P-bars was a lot stronger than their high bar. And I think
absolutely.
for us, finishing on P-bar definitely helped us because we had potentially 4 like strong routines from Liam, Sam, Hamish, and I. So we were pretty safe, like a safety net there of like solid scores in the 13s and 14s. So I think that's what helped us win that. But yeah, an amazing competition.
Yeah, and speaking of that, that like safety net, you had 4 up, 3 to count on every piece, was it? You had 4 up every piece. Yeah, you must have, because you had like you had 5 all rounds. Yeah, on 3 of the apparatus we had 3 up, 3 to count. And 2 of those were vault and floor, and I was doing both of those. So it was dodgy. It was it was a bit dodgy. Because rings I pulled out of the last second, and then rings I pulled out of the last second. And then floor and vault, Gabe and Josh couldn't do. So it's always good to have that safety blanket, but sometimes injuries are just like there, so you can't do anything. And so whatever score you get is the score you get. Like, there's nothing you can do about it. And it does add a lot of pressure. It does definitely add a lot of pressure. But like, I mean, there were basic routines. For me, at least, for most of them. I think pommels was less basic, and then high bar was less basic, but I was struggling. I mean, c'est la vie. Okay, so gone past British teams now. What's next for you? What's the next sort of chunk of training going to be for?
An exciting summer ahead would look like a lot of new skills, trying to upgrade the difficulty. So it's more like an international standard, especially for the senior. We're going into a new code of points as well, from 10 to 8 skills. So that's going to look like shorter routines, more difficulty, more connections. And that is something that you have to be ready for and have the difficulty in your pocket to achieve that. So definitely a lot of new skills this summer. I've joined a Bundesliga team in Germany, so I'll be competing for them on a few apparatus, and that should hopefully give me a chance to run some of my new skills and also just prepare myself and get some routines out before the competition season starts in 2025, which will be important for the likes of Europeans, World Championships. If I'm going to have a shot at those, I need to prove myself worthy. So pretty much just preparation for 2025 and keeping myself fit, healthy, getting stronger, and just looking after myself, really.
So you said you're working new skills and stuff. Like what are they, and what do you think will be most beneficial going into the next code?
Yeah, so having studied the codes briefly, not fully yet, but briefly, it seems to be that the trend on floor is now double straight somersaults are going to be favored. So like double straight full, double, they're all getting increased in value. So I think these are quite desirable skills to have in your routine, at least one, to take advantage of this code change. So of course, gymnasts like Jake Jam and Harry Hepworth, like they're going to love this new code change, just favors them entirely. So for me, being a pommel specialist, it's not entirely necessary for me to have these skills, but as an all-rounder, these skills would complement me and make me stand out a lot more. So still desirable for me to put in my routine if possible. Moving to the pommel, because I'm 100%, I don't do any flares in my routines, and that seems to be the biggest hit to this new code, is that flares are being hammered. So you can I think it's only like 4 flare elements you can do in your routine now. And there's some people in the world right now who are doing like 10 skill flare routines, or like just all flares. So more so for them, this code is like a bit of a nightmare. But for me, I'm just going to be putting in a G flop on the single handle at some point, and also an F flop, so they can become staples in my routine. But that's where I'm going to increase my difficulty. On the rings, some strength elements would be nice. So I'm trying to get stronger on my straight planche and my cross, because they are pretty big requirements in order to get like a decent score in the next code. So that's going to be important. Vault, I'm going to just be continuing to do two and a half gas. Are you planning anything different for your vault?
I've been working on some double fronts, like handspring double fronts. I've been sort of half looking at Cas triple twist. Training's been very inconsistent at the moment, but yeah, so that's sort of what we're looking at. I think the most likely option is that I either stay with 2.5, but like I keep working triple, but it's a lot easier to go from a triple to a 2.5 than it is to go from a 2.5 to a triple. In a Cas like specifically, and then maybe it's a second vault doing a double front. Maybe if I want to be a vault specialist. But I think it's definitely doable from the ones I've done. It's still very new, but
moving to P-bars then. I think a lot of the focus and priority there is on the front uprise elements, because moving into 8 skill, the like front up DM and the front up studs, they're 2 E's which I think people are realizing are getting easier or like more prominent in the code. I even believe next code after this upcoming one, they might reduce them in value slightly, just because they're just growing in popularity. It's the same thing they did with the Son on the pommel horse. They're going to be reducing that to a D value from an E next code. So it's kind of just seeing where the trend goes and just like changing it and bringing new things back to light. And then on the high bar, I'm trying to get in more like combinations like squat off, straight Kachev, maybe Lukin, pushing towards like Coleman, Casina, those kind of bigger skills that you're going to need if you're going to be a key player for the Team GB squad. So yeah, definitely those kind of skills need to be ticked off.
How about squat half straight bingo? Just as on the side.
I need to get on that more, but my straight Kachev is consistent now, so I just got to put those 2 together.
Okay, cool. Yeah, the squat half is very important if you're doing the squat half combinations. Like, it's not as important if you're doing it into a skill that the action is a little bit later, but for a Kachev, when you need to start it like from handstand, it's incredibly important that you either hit handstand or like just past handstand. There's like not much room for error.
Definitely squat full and squat half and high bar are going to be very desirable next code, because if you're going to get those 2/10 connection bonuses, you're going to need something out of those 2 skills. Obviously, we have that Chinese Taipei guy, Tang Chai Hung. He does the Wallstrom from the squat full, and he's kind of like the staple right now on high bar. He's kind of got a bit of everything in his routine, and that's a 2/10 connection bonus right there, EG connection. So it's skills like that that are going to set you apart in the next code, I believe. So yeah, definitely very important.
We have mentioned that guy, Tang Chai Hung, on a couple of these ones. His name, normally it's the Chinese Taipei guy on bar. That's normally how we refer to him. But he has been mentioned so often on here, like so often. And it's because he's got 3 skills in his routine already that are either a G now or are going up to a G. So he's got Casino, he's got Wallstrom, and he's got Lukin.
Yeah.
That are all either G's now or going up to G next code. So he really doesn't need to change his routine much, especially considering that he's got squat half Lukin as well and squat full Wallstrom. So that's 2 DG combinations. Next code, that's 1.3 in 2 skills. And he's got that twice in his routine, and that's half of the skills in his routine. And like me and George were talking about it, we agreed that he might need to do differently is a bigger dismount, and that is it, because next code dismounts are also changing. So, I mean, probably an E would suffice, like if he just puts an extra twist on his dismount, like so go from a double straight full to a double straight. That would probably suffice, because then he goes from doing, next code, this is how it would work. It would be a D dismount with 4/10 extra for the requirement, to this code it being 5/10 for the dismount and 5/10 for the requirement. So he goes up by 2/10 rather than just the 1. And then plus you get a stick bonus if you stick it as well. Or he just goes for the easy dismount, goes for the stick, and then he's guaranteed sort of the same amount as someone would get if they did the E with one step.
Yeah.
It is about balancing, I guess. But if you can do the E, you can do it consistently, you can stick it consistently, then it's a no-brainer, really.
I think I like generally what they've done with this new dismount rule. I think making the routines shorter as well should make them more exciting. And it also just puts more pressure in those like high bar finals of like who's going to do the big dismount and who's going to stick the big dismount. That's really who's going to be on top. And that's definitely going to be more exciting to watch from a spectator point of view as well, I'd say. There's a lot more excitement in that than just somebody breezing through a 10 skill and finishing with like a shoulder quass dismount. Do you know what I mean? There's more excitement there.
My opinion of the code has been fluctuating over time. It's changed. But I definitely think on high bar it is actually pretty cool what they've done, because they're putting such an emphasis on like the combinations that you can do. Because they've reduced the skills, you need to get like all the difficulty in as soon as possible and in the shortest space possible. So you can't just be doing, well, you can do quast if like you don't have a long bar element, for example, but it's obviously a lot better to do a Rabalco or a Stolder Rabalco.
Yeah.
So like there's that sort of emphasis on putting the most into the least skills possible. And I think that's actually quite good. I think the way they've done it in upgrading the skills that people don't often see, like the Ginger and Jaeger and Gaylord, which I think it's an interesting decision. I don't know if I fully agree with it right now, because Ginger feels way too easy to be a D. That's my main concern with it. And the fact that I can put my hands on the bar trying a def after 2 days at it.
Yeah.
It's a bit concerning that someone can do a G that easily, especially considering I've never even tried a Casino, and I've been doing Kovac and Coleman for years now.
Yeah.
Like the difference is astronomical. Like the difference in how quick it is to learn. Yes, I get it. It's a bit difficult to get your head round, and it's a bit weird of like skill to start with. But once you get your head around it, it's so quick and it's so easy to learn. And that's my main concern, that people are going to get these skills so quickly and it's going to just inflate the scores. And the people that have been doing Casino, Straight Kachev, Straddle Kachev, and Lukins for their whole life, and like Coleman's and stuff, their whole life, and they've worked so hard at it, they're going to be punished for doing that max code, basically, because people are learning these new skills so quickly. And I think that's not great.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know.
I would say in general, the trend that they're trying to change seems to be that they're seeing a lot of like straddle Kachevs, pipe Kachevs connection, and it's just getting like a bit boring to watch. Essentially, like it's not what gymnastics used to be. It used to be a lot more high flying elements, and I think they're just trying to change that so it's not just repetitive routines and the same people going down the same path. Obviously, elements like Ginga, Def, they come with their own risk as well. It's not as simple to get out of a Def, for example, than it is to get out of a catcher, because you've got to do an endo out of it. So there are like room. There's room for error in every single skill. So, but I get your point. Yeah, it can be quite frustrating for sure. So yeah, but I think it'll be exciting to see at least next year what people do with that new code. And I'm sure in like 4 years' time, when LA comes around, people would have figured it out and found out the best routines for this code. So yeah, exciting stuff.
I'm not even speaking for myself here. Like, I'm not even saying that I'm a victim here. I'm going to be taking advantage of the new code. I'm sort of, I guess, speaking on behalf of the people that have been doing this for years, and suddenly people are doing G from doing like a squat half def after a month of learning it, when they've had to do a year just to learn Casino. Like,
yeah,
and not even doing it connected. They're doing it connected and getting an extra 2/10 on them.
Yeah.
That's my main point. Like, I don't know how it will work because I don't know how easy people will find these skills. It's just, I'm just going off my own experience here. But I know that some people will, I'm just sort of putting my prediction out there that some people will sort of find that this will happen and be like, well, why? why is this happening now? Like, unless they take advantage of the code, in which case they will get the same benefits. That's the only difference, I guess. Because if you've been doing it for longer and you can sort of adapt to it, that will be good for them because they will get the same benefits as well as having done all the work to get Casino in the past, that sort of thing. But I don't know how drastic people will be wanting to change their routines.
I would say it almost gives it almost gives an incentive for people to actually start doing more releases in their routine though, because with the 8 skill change as well, like that on the current code 10 skill, there's not really much incentive for you to do more than like a stoop stolder or like a Zula min, one arm giant. But on this new code, there's so much incentive for you to do it, like do a squat off Ginger, do a squat off straight catcher, do a Jaeger, or like there's going to be more releases in people's routine, and I think it's going to look better to watch as well, better gymnastics, and that can only mean good things for our sport. So I think this is a long overdue change of bringing releases back, which look nice, but just were underappreciated and underused. So I think it's quite necessary, really.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I'm sort of just playing devil's advocate at this point. Yeah. I'm just sort of trying to look at it from another point of view. Yeah. Like, I know that I'm really not going to be finding that, oh no, people aren't doing as many casinos now because I can't do a casino.
Yeah.
Like, doesn't really matter for me. But yeah, like, I think it's overall the change in the code is going to be quite cool. I think it's going to be cool to watch, especially like as a spectator, because people are going to be going for like the biggest skills because they've got less skills to work with, and they're going to be incentivized to do like some of the easier skills that they would normally do harder versions of them. So if they were doing a stolder before, they might just try and do a squat full to get an extra 3/10 if they can do it to under grasp, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
We don't know at this point. We'll have to wait for like the first few competitions next year to sort of get a gauge for really what it was going to be like. But it's all speculation at this point. What are your goals for like start scores next code, generally speaking? And what are they this code? What will they be next code?
Well, I'll talk in terms of like a pommel horse sense, because that's the like where I've already got like a lot of the skills already. It's just about putting them in the right order and competing them well. So most people right now, I'd say with 10 skills D+, it's going to look close to a 6.5 start. So with 2 skills going out, it's going to be pretty tough to get a 6 start value now. You're going to need to have at least like 1 G in your routine, maybe a Busnari, definitely an E handstand dismount. So I think scores will probably, the best in the world start values will be close to a 6 star value, maybe exceeding by a couple tenths. And I believe scores around 14.5 should be around about like world medal level. It feels weird saying that because obviously there's some juniors now on 8 skill who can already achieve a 14.5. You got Hamlet Menyukin from Armenia. Obviously he was in the pommel final with me in the World Championships last year. So I think that's the level I expect next year. But by the Olympics, I think people will figure something out and achieve higher aspirations, pushing towards like 15. So that'll be exciting. But I think generally people are going to be taking those filling skills out, B's and C's, and just putting those bigger skills in. In terms of start values, I'm not too sure how that will affect it. But I think generally scores shouldn't really change too much. I mean, yes, they're going to decrease, but to what extent, I don't think it'll be that big.
For like an all-arounder who wants to be just solid on all of the pieces, that's pretty good on pommel, but not like a specialist. The start score I want to get to, I actually can't remember it right now. I guess the aspirational routine I want to do on pommel is a 5-6, and that'll be quite hard to get to. So I think most scores above like a 5-5 would be like a good solid start score for like an all-arounder. And then anything above 6, you're a specialist. I reckon it'll be at least somewhat similar with the rest of the pieces as well. Like, it's not going to be exactly the same because, I mean, every piece is different. Stuff like rings, I think there's going to be more of a variance between different people than pretty much any other piece. Because if you're not a rings worker and you can't do strength, you're really going to struggle next code. But if you're like semi-decent on P-bars, you'll still be able to do some solid skills, so you won't struggle as like much. So I think most of the scores are being pushed together, but it feels like rings is sort of staying about where it is currently with the difference between scores, I guess. So I think it is going to be quite hard for non-rings workers, I guess, to get good rings scores. But then, like stuff like high bar is going to be just insane.
Well, I mean, on rings, you've either got the strength or you haven't got the strength. So, especially for people like us who, it's taking a bit longer to get the strength skills. If you're someone who can do like multis, if you can hold every position, you can get to them, then your start value is just going to be miles ahead. They've also introduced some changes to existing swinging skills, haven't they? Like Yolshin and Yamoaki now must swing through handstand for full credit. There's a few skills like that and new rules. So I think definitely rings is changing the most. You're right by saying that.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't think it's changing the most in comparison to other pieces, but I think the scores will vary the most in terms of how good you are on rings, I guess. From like, because you as much as some people aren't born with strength, you're very much like pushed to do strength skills. Because if you do, say for instance, if you do a C swing to strength and a C strength element, which is still like a lower to cross and a backup, lower to cross and a backup to cross, that would do it for a C and a C. That means you get 3/10 for each of the skills and then 3/10 for the requirement, because that's changing as well. Of course it is. So you get 6 there, that's 12. If you do back up to straight planche and lower to multis, which are both Ds, then you get 4/10, 4/10, and then you get 5/10 for each requirement as well, which means you're 3/10 up on both of them. You're at 1 point. No, 3/10 for each of them, so you're at 6/10 up total. So 1.8 for the two skills. But that means that you're 6/10 up, but you're only 2/10 up in terms of what it would be this code. I mean, it's something to think about for going into this next code. And I mean, you just got to work with what you've got. And if you're struggling with this, then you just sort of have to play to your strengths, really. Thank you for listening to the Games Gymnastics Podcast. Thank you for coming on.
Thank you for having me. It's been great.
And I hope you'll join me in listening to the next one. And I'll see you soon. Peace.